Are there with us today. Hello Facebook, hello YouTube. Hope everybody is really well. I was just saying it's the end of the week. It's like Feel Good Friday. I'm here in my studios. Been doing some really fun things this morning, which I'll tell you about in just a moment. And as I said to our friends on Instagram just now, I was thinking that maybe today it was time just to take a moment, you know? There's always so much going on, isn't there? And, you know, I'm always so keen because I want to show you new things and share new stuff and introduce you to new people and cook stuff and whiz over here and there. And I thought, actually, do you know what? I've had lots of questions about different things. And sometimes it's just nice, isn't it? Just to take a moment, just to pause. Hello, Amy. See you on Facebook. So Amy's joined us as usual. Amy is my digital editor for Liz Earle Wellbeing. She's been working from home since April. And so I haven't actually seen you in real life, Amy, but I feel that we've connected a lot. We obviously chat a lot on email and on our Zoom calls for work, and then here, obviously, on Facebook. Amy is running our community over there. So Amy will pop in all the links to things I talk about. So if you want to hop over to Facebook later on, perhaps if you want to click on any of the links. Obviously on Instagram, we put it all on Linktree. So if you're new to Instagram, welcome. Just go to my main biography and you'll see a little blue line which says Linktree and then some numbers and letters. And if you just click on that, that gives all the links. It's quite a clever little device that we can use on Instagram. And actually, I have to say, pretty much everything else that I talk about, certainly today, you will find on Liz Earle Wellbeing. We've just updated the website with a load more new content. And there's a new podcast from this week with Sally Hughes. Who listened to that? Oh my goodness, wasn't that just so interesting? You know, I mean, I've followed Sally for so many years, working as a writer. She now writes so brilliantly on The Guardian, and she's just, you know, a great person to chat to. We obviously had lots of chats about beauty, but we also had really interesting conversations, which I wasn't expecting her to talk about the trolling and the abuse that she'd had on social media last year. I mean, quite extraordinary. And she talks really openly about it. So that was really, it's a really good listen. And then she talks about the Queen, and she's written this amazing book called Our Rainbow Queen, all about the Queen's wardrobe, which again is fascinating. So that's what I love about my podcast. They're a bit of a smorgasbord of all sorts of strange things. You think that you're just going to be sitting there talking about hyaluronic acid and skincare, and then all of a sudden, you know, the guest is actually introducing a totally new topic, and we go off and then we come back and then we weave in well-being all the way. Talking about weaving in well-being all the way, I have got somebody here that just is going to pop in and say hi. She's been working with me this morning.
Hello.
Hi, my lovely.
Hi, Mama.
Oh, so nice to have you
Nice
here
to
with
be
me. You may have seen on Instagram, if you are following me on Instagram, you have to snuggle up this way because the way the screen works on Instagram. Lily the Pink, living up to her name today, actually in my sweater.
I am, yes.
This is, I love this because I bought this as a little private sale somewhere. I'm sorry, I don't know where it's from, but it's got these little stars. Has it got a label in the back? Does it say at all?
I don't know.
Have a look. Coco, it says. Coco London. So there you go. Anyway, it's not a new one, I'm afraid, but it is fun.
My husband, the sound editor, made me change my shirt.
Oh, that's right. That was her excuse. Okay, this is a really good excuse for raiding your mum's wardrobe. Okay, it's turn up to work because we're recording podcasts today. Amazing new podcast series.
So interesting.
So interesting, but I'm not allowed to talk about that just yet. Anyway, so she turns up in this really beautiful white, crisp cotton shirt with a big ruffly collar, and of course, what does it do in the sound studio?
It rustles.
It rustles. It's like wearing a paper bag. So he said, you can't wear that. So of course she went and raided.
But I didn't had to rescue my shirt from your wardrobe.
What, your shirt from my wardrobe?
Yes, the one I was wearing. You put it away.
Of course I put it away.
Yes, in your wardrobe. It's my shirt.
Yes, but you left it out. So it's like...
I could remember to take it home.
But as I always say to people, don't put things down, put them away.
Yes, but away is like a few kilometres in that direction.
Honestly, it's like in a cupboard, okay? It's just like, don't leave detritus and clutter everywhere. If you're going to put it down, put it on a hanger and put it away. And then think, oh, I'm going to go home in my shirt now. Or... am I going to go in my mum's jumper?
I am. I'm going to go in the jumper. It's really comfy.
It is, and it does suit you actually. This is the infuriating thing, is I don't know if you've got any kind of teenage or older daughters, but they just look so much better in so many of the clothes. I think it's true. You honestly, you put stuff on that I think I kind of look okay in, and then you wear it and it's like, oh. Okay then.
Sorry.
Well, I guess you better have that. Anyway, lots of lovely comments. Yeah, I'm sorry you're leaving us. A quick update. How are you feeling? I know people are always asking how it's going with the histamine.
I'm feeling okay. I had a bit of a rough time away because because if it is a histamine issue, I got loads of mosquito bites and then realised that that's going to flood my body with loads of histamine. So that could have been why I was really poorly whilst we were away.
Yeah. Of course, because Lil was away while I was introducing everybody to Alfresco, which is that really wonderful natural scent which I use. And I use it as an eau de cologne and I use it as a body moisturiser. And it's clinically proven at the London School of Tropical Diseases to ward away mosquitoes. So as soon as you got back, I gave you some.
Yes, I know.
It's like, well, thanks, Mum. I'm back now, and I've been bitten to death, and I've had all these histamine reactions, and I'm feeling terrible. So, but you're kind of recovering from that now, were you a bit?
Yes, slowly. But it is Migraine Awareness Week, everyone.
It is. I've been watching your posts, actually. You've been doing some really, really fun things. Well, not fun things, because it's not fun, but you've been doing some interesting, unusual things.
Yeah.
And it's a bit of a healthcare week, actually. It was Suicide Prevention Day yesterday. Is it the week all week? I'm not sure.
It's the day, and then September is Suicide Prevention Month.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
And I know that we've just put a really good piece of content. In fact, Amy, my digital editor, wrote it in conjunction with Diane Danzybrink, who literally came this close to taking her own life because of menopause, depression. And so she has told her story, and there are some interesting resources. Amy, do you want to pop a link up on Liz Earle Wellbeing? So it's just so good to be aware of it. And actually, I was listening to the radio yesterday. I think it was it Woman's Hour or the Today programme? It was one of those things. Usually makes me shout at the radio, but anyway, I was listening, and it was a lady. I think she was an Asian lady talking about her sister who committed suicide in her early to mid 40s, and what a shock it had been, and how she didn't know that she'd had depression, and she changed. Said, she got into her 40s and she changed, her mood changed, and I'm shouting at the radio, estrogen. Yes, estrogen. Why was this lady not picked up and said, yes, of course, your mood is changing, and it could so easily have been. I don't know that for sure. Obviously, I'm not a doctor. But, we know that antidepressants don't work for low estrogen-induced low mood caused by menopause, because it's caused by low estrogen. So an antidepressant is not going to fix it. It'll help with clinical depression, clearly, but that's not what it's for. And also, interestingly, the average age of menopause for Eurasian, white Caucasian women in Europe is 51, whereas for Asian women, it is 41. So it's even more important for women from different communities and different ethnicities to be aware that they might be at risk from lowered hormones earlier, perhaps, than other women. So it's one of those things that we write about. I write about it in my menopause books and guides and things. But it's just staggering, actually, how many conditions, whether you're talking about depression, mental health. I was talking to another lady who's got achy joints and achy bones and was seeing a rheumatologist, and again it was down to low levels of estrogen. I almost seem like a broken record. It's just like repeating again and again and again just how helpful it can be. But you're so full on and forearmed, aren't you?
I know. I'm going to be.
And all my young team here.
So on it.
It's like the minute there's a little twinge, you'd be in your late 30s and you go, oh, right. Better go and get my levels checked. Anyway, sweetheart, you better head off.
Nice to speak to you all, see all your comments. Bye, everyone.
Bye, my lovely.
Bye, Laura.
I will catch you later.
See you later.
So, lots of nice comments. Actually, while we're on the subject of hormones and menopause, I have had a couple here that have come in, which I thought I might share with you. Bye, sweetie pea. So, this is regarding estrogen, and it's about estradiol and estrogel. So, this is ongoing. That was the door shutting. This, alas, is still an ongoing issue. If you are using the gel form of estrogen, hopefully you're on estrogel. You may have been given estradiol, and estradiol for some has been found not to be as effective. Not saying that's the case for everybody. It's something that's still under investigation, but just be careful. And there was an email on this, so pleased to see the Estrogel versus Estrodose article. Yeah, we have written a whole article about it. It's up online if you want to check it, lizearlewellbeing.com. Add that to your weekend reading list. Amy, I know you'll probably pop a link up on that, won't you? I was initially on Estrogel, but the surgery pharmacy have replaced this on many occasions with Estrodose. The latter is markedly less effective for me. But the pharmacy disputed this, telling me it's an identical product. I now feel I have the necessary information to raise this again, so thank you, Liz. And that was from Adrienne that came in via email. So if you want to read the article about Estrogel versus Estrodose, the whole issue of parallel imports, which I've talked about before, about how these products should be the same, but they aren't. And we're still in discussions with Bessins Healthcare who make them to find out what's happening. Maybe it's a storage issue. Maybe the Estrodose is being stored in a different way. Maybe the lining of the pump inside is made of a different kind of material that's interacting with the gel. Who knows? You know, there are all these things. Having spent years working in skincare and product formulation, you know, back in the day when I was connected to the beauty company, I know how difficult and sensitive formulations can be, especially gels. You know, they're not necessarily very stable. So, but that said, if you are somebody who's had an issue, and I've done this myself because I discovered that I'd had an issue, you must please report it to the MHRA. You know, nothing will happen without evidence, particularly in medicine. One would like to think a lot of things do happen, unfortunately, with the wrong evidence, but let's give them the benefit of the doubt. Let's hope that if we give them the right evidence, and it's super easy to do, it's this thing called a yellow card. And in the old days, you know, if you had an issue with a product, you'd tell your GP, and the GP would literally fill in a card that was yellow and put it in the post to the MHRA, and then they would deal with it and collate all the evidence. Now, of course, you do it on an app. And it's an app, it's yellow and it's got black dots on it. And you can download it, it's free to download. It's the MHRA app, yellow card app. And it's a little bit convoluted. You have to have the batch number of the product that you're reporting. You have to put in, you know, your personal details, which they say are totally safe and protected, because obviously they need to know, you know, whether you're male, female, your age, what your symptoms are, and all of those things, and particularly because we're looking at a hormone. And then you just write in what the problem was. And for me, it was, I just didn't think that it was working for me anymore for my sleep. And I was having to use more and more, increase the amount of pumps that I was using just to get anywhere near. And I know a lot of women who've been, particularly during lockdown, who've been feeling very anxious, haven't been sleeping well, symptoms returning, and you just think, well, it's that time, isn't it? Of course, I'm feeling more anxious and this is why. And actually when you look at it, you realise that it's because this Estrodose may not be working. Now there are other options. I've also been trialling this thing called the Lenzetto spray, and I like it. I feel confident in it because I know there's no gel issue. So, I know that it hasn't been messed about with. And it's also because I use quite a lot of the gel, I find that the spray is easier. You just go, you just squirt it on and that's it, rather than actually rubbing in quite a lot, which I have to do. So anyway, I'm just going to leave that with you. This was a nice comment. Another one here, just before I move on to a different subject. This was Ingrid. Excuse me, this was from, again on email, saying, thank you so much for the article on Estrodose. I would never have noticed the change, but just checked and am indeed using an over-labelled Estrodose and have noticed symptoms returning. Thank you again. Life-changing bit of information. Yeah, and that was from Ingrid. So there we go. And this one actually has come in. Doesn't say who. It's from Facebook. If you're watching on Facebook, let me know if this was your comment, because thank you. It was a really nice one. This was about the very first podcast episode that I did of the new series with Patrick Holden. If you haven't listened to it, or you can watch it, of course, on YouTube, do take a listen and watch. I re-listen to it because obviously, I record it and then some months go by and then it goes live, and occasionally I have to kind of remind myself of what we were talking about. So I replayed this podcast and he is genius. He just literally knocks it out the park when it comes to talking about food issues, farming, what we should be buying, what we should be eating, how we should be regulating food. I mean, it's just brilliant. Anyway, this comment says exactly that. It says, absolutely brilliant video. Thank you so much for not following the rest of the organisations that are trying to make money out of lies. Oh my goodness. I just have to hope that the majority won't follow it. I would make either one of you Prime Minister tomorrow. Pure truth and an honest concern for life on Earth. The Sustainable Food Trust is brilliant. Yeah, I totally agree. And you can support them. Sustainable Food Trust, you'll find them online. Thank you, Amy. You popped a link up to that podcast with Patrick Holden. Sustainable Food Trust, he started that several years ago. I actually went to the launch of it in Washington and was one of their very first ambassadors. I went and I heard Prince Charles speak because he gave the opening address. It was held at the Botanic Gardens in the middle of Washington. My first and only visit actually to Washington. I loved it, loved to go back. It was really fascinating. I was very honoured to be there. And Patrick Holden, of course, was the director of the Soil Association, very involved in the organic movement for more than 20 years, and is just such an activist. And he's a farmer as well, so he walks the walk as well as talking the talk. Always really important. So thank you very much for those comments. A couple of other things here, questions actually on menopause before we move on. This is one here, it's about intermittent bleeding, breakthrough bleeding. And I know that some women who are perhaps older, who go back on to HRT or start taking HRT later, maybe they're taking Estrogen, which is the body identical form of progesterone, which is, you can get it from your GP, you can get it on prescription, NHS prescription. And she was quite concerned because she began to get some spotting and, you know, breakthrough bleeding really. And, you know, obviously if you haven't had a period for years, that can be a bit worrying. But anyway, Dr. Newson was able to reply on this and say, if I read up the email thread, she says here, breakthrough bleeding can be very common in women taking HRT, and if it's intermittent, it's unlikely to be due to a serious reason, especially if you're taking Estrogen every evening, because that's the protective bit. The progesterone is protecting the uterus. Serious causes that we need to be concerned about usually lead to heavy and persistent bleeding. So if it's heavy and persistent, then that can potentially be a cause for concern. And I've read reports, you know, if, for example, if you have to change your pad every couple of hours, you know, that would be really quite heavy bleeding. She said there are lots of causes for bleeding. If it reoccurs or worsens, you know, see your GP, and then you might want to be examined and perhaps have an ultrasound scan just to check there's no other cause. And then going on to say, you know, why, you know, is it due to a build-up of unwanted material on the lining of the womb? And yeah, you know, and again, Dr. Newson says, well, many women who have intermittent bleeding who take HRT, we never find a reason for it. It's kind of one of those things, but, you know, it can often happen when there's a small build-up of the lining of the womb. But the bottom line here is, don't panic. If it's sparse and just intermittent, it's very unlikely to be anything untoward. So thank you very much to Dr. Newson for answering those. Lovely to see all the comments that have gone on. Obviously, I only have to mention HRT and menopause, and it just 18-year-old who has intermittent bleeding constantly. Yeah, I would definitely get that checked out. Yeah, I mean, if that's a constant thing, yeah, for sure. Yeah, Mirena coil, Victoria talking about that. You know, the Mirena coil is such a great way of getting the progesterone part of your HRT, because the other thing is if you use it while you're still having periods, it makes them very, well, it can switch them off so you don't have periods anymore, or it really makes them very, very light. You know, one of the reasons why so many women have hysterectomies is because they have incredibly heavy periods. And actually, if you can have a coil fitted, Mirena coil fitted, and actually stop those, just switch them off, for many women, it can prevent them actually having to have surgery. So it's a much safer, cheaper, easier, you know, less invasive, you know, procedure. So definitely something to consider. It's one of the parts of HRT. If you want to know more, then I've got my e-guide. It's called The Truth About HRT, and it's been reviewed by several professors of obstetrics and breast cancer and hormones and, you know, real medical experts. So I've written it as a journalist, as a writer, as an investigative health writer, and it has been double, triple, quadruple fact checked by leading experts. So you can be sure that the information there is sound. And also what's good about an e-guide is we can update it. So for example, the most recent update that is in the e-guide is all about estradiol and estrogel. You know, we were able to include that. And so all you have to do if you want the updated version is you go back onto lizearlewellbeing.com where you first downloaded it from, and you just re-download it, and you'll just have access, because you paid for it, you'll just have access to the new edition. So well worth doing that. Something that arrived, and I've been so busy I haven't even looked at it, but I just wanted to say congratulations to my mate Meg Matthews. This is her new book on menopause that's just come out, and it's called The New Hot, of course, taking on the menopause with attitude and style, just as you would expect. Breaking down taboos. It's just got lots and lots in here, and there's a little press release here actually that talks about it. I'm going to be taking this away with me and having a look at the weekend. And so yeah, lovely. Looks like a really nice, well put together book. I do actually appear in here somewhere. I'm not quite sure where. Oh, talk about the male menopause. Well. Carol Vorderman, I see, has contributed. Lorraine Candy. I think Mary Portus. That's interesting. So yeah, I know I'm definitely in here because I've got my name in the index and where it says thank you. Earle, Liz, there we go, page 94 and page 98 and page 263. Okay. What does Meg say about me here? Better be something nice, otherwise you'll be in trouble, Meg. 94. Oh, there we go, just a quote about me losing sleep. 98. What have I said on there? I have said, oh yeah, let's talk about sleep with Liz Earle, author and wellbeing expert. There you go. Great. Good. Well, I think we just need to talk about everything, don't we, really? We just need to start the conversations and get that going, and hopefully exchange good ideas, as everybody is doing here, as I can see. Hi, Evelyn. Hello from Leeds. Very nice of you to say hi. Hello. Hi, Beth. Hi, Jane. Yeah, gosh, comment from the Devon creator. Men have no idea what us women go through. No. I was talking to a psychiatrist actually not that long ago who said women are by far the stronger of the two sexes because we cope with so much and have children, childbearing, all of that, have our periods, you know, right from young teenage age years onwards, and then cope with the effect of menopause and our loss of estrogen, etc. And still we manage to be multitaskers, to be the primary caregivers, to be leaders in the workplace and all that. So yeah. Anyhow, I'm not going to get into a big row about gender, but I am going to ask. Okay, so some questions here that have come in. This is from Jeanette on Instagram, so it is actually an HRT question. Just started taking HRT, age 57. Everything I put on my skin feels like putting disinfectant on it. Could it be psychological? Yeah, it could actually also be very real. You know, we know that there's an extreme skin condition that makes skin super sensitive and quite itchy and prickly, caused by low estrogen. So hopefully, if you're back on estrogen, you're replacing it now after, I don't know, 2 or 3 months, maybe, your skin should really start to settle down. I discovered a very lovely calming skincare range the other day called CeraVe, CeraVe, CERAVE. And it's not expensive. It's in pharmacies, chemists, and there's a really thick moisturiser that you can get, which is just very calming for sensitive skin. So that might be an option. This is from Joe on Instagram. Said, hi Liz, I've been on HRT for 2 years now, but feel the dose may need increasing. I'm now 51. Is it usual to increase the dose from time to time? Yes, absolutely. Absolutely it is. And as our estrogen levels decline, you know, you may have been fine when you were first getting it at 49, when your estrogen levels may have, you know, plummeted even further. So yeah, absolutely. It'd be quite good to have a review with your doctor and talk about it. For me, I went from using 2 pumps a day of the estrogel to using 5. I now use between 4 and 5. When I was using Estradiol, I was having to use about 6 because I was just thinking, why isn't this working? And then, of course, it transpired that it was a different, in some ways different. But now, I use a lot more than I did. And then they do say that actually your body adjusts and you need less as we get older. So it's something that you do need to keep under constant review, which is why it's really important to have an annual review at least with your doctor talking about that. Julie asks on Instagram, "Hi Liz, could you recommend a vitamin D supplement that I can buy for my sons at university and for my parents to support immunity?" Absolutely. Do you know, I was just recording a podcast with a different doctor in a totally different field of medicine for later on in the year, so that will come out probably in November. But he was saying that some of the most interesting research in his field was all to do with vitamin D. It just seems that wherever you look, you know, fish oils, vitamin D really seem to be the two. And the one that I take, this is the Naked Pharmacy, comes in this really good sustainable packet, and you get 20% off all Naked Pharmacy things. I really like them as a brand. I podcasted with their founder, and this is a natural form of vitamin D, and it does actually have a prebiotic in there with its natural source, synthetic free, and you just take one a day, and it's for children over the age of 10 and adults, one a day. And absolutely, I've sent my teenager back to uni with a packet of this, and also some saffrosun, and also this one actually, marine magnesium. This is the other one. These are the two that I'm really focusing on at the moment, and my saffrosun. But in terms of nutrients, my magnesium and my vitamin D, and also vitamin C. It's a whole other story. But one of these as well. And this marine magnesium, again, it's a natural source, and it's great. So you need to use a slightly different code. It's Liz Loves 20 that gives you 20% off everything at Naked Pharmacy. Thanks, Amy, for popping a link up. And the reason that it's Liz Loves 20 is that when we first promoted them, they were giving us a 10% discount. So it was Liz Earle 10. And then they said, look, you know, you're obviously getting a lot of interest on this, and because it's you, we'll give you 20%. Isn't that nice? So Liz Earle 20 is what you need on Naked Pharmacy. Oh gosh, more questions on HRT. I can't get away from it, can I, whenever I start talking about it? This is from on Instagram. Can I take HRT if I've had breast cancer? I've been told no. Yes, you can. Yes, you can take it. Usually you need to be under a specialist, you need to be under guidance, even estrogen receptor positive. Depends what form, of course. There's HRT comes in lots of different forms. You can have vaginal estrogen, which is incredibly safe. And, you know, even if you're having active treatment for breast cancer, a lot of women do still have that. You can look up on menopausedoctor.co.uk. She's written a lot about it. There's another great book that I would recommend by Professor Avram Blooming called Estrogen Matters, and he is a leading breast cancer surgeon and oncologist on the west coast of America. Both his wife and his daughter have had breast cancer. They're both on HRT, and he is actually working on studies at the moment that show that estrogen may in fact in some way be protective. So really interesting new studies. Haven't got the data in yet on that, but there's a lot of work that's going on, and we know that so much of what we're told, the studies were flawed. So anyway, I'm not going to go down that route again because I've done it so many times. I'm probably boring half of you to death with it, but yeah, it is really important, and that's why I continue to talk about it, and that's why I continue to, you know, have my e-guides and discussions every now and then, because it's really, really important. On the subject of supplements, says Emily on Facebook, I can see here, what would you recommend when starting out on HRT? Well, there's nothing particularly related to HRT, but obviously if you're on HRT, it means that you are a midlife woman, likely. I mean, you may not be, you may have early onset menopause, obviously. So you need to be looking at bone health. Now, of course, HRT, one of the main benefits of taking HRT is protecting us against osteoporosis. So that's a real plus. But, you know, calcium needs vitamin D to work, as does magnesium. So I think, you know, vitamin D, magnesium, they're certainly the ones that I'm focusing on as a midlife woman. and making sure that my B vitamins are high. B complex is something that I use quite a lot. I mean, I really like having B complex, mainly for stress, I have to say, quite stressed. So talking of that, did you see my little broadcast on Wednesday with Mariska, who's the founder of Life Armour? So this is what I'm enjoying at the moment. Drops of balance for stress. And this contains this really interesting adaptogenic herb called ashwagandha. I can't pick up these bottles without actually popping in a few drops. I do love them. We've got 15% off these, by the way. Liz loves in capitals. And I have just recorded my Friday 5 podcast, which will go out later on this afternoon. And I talk a little bit more about some of these herbs because they are unusual herbs. Things like ashwagandha and shishandra berry and astragalus and holy basil and lots of interesting things. So after my chat with Mariska, I did a little bit of research into some of these herbs to find out a bit more, just so I could bring it to life a bit more on my Friday 5. So I have included that. So if you've got time later on, if you'd like to listen to that podcast, you might find that interesting. The other thing that I talked about is the looking at flawed studies, which I mentioned just briefly then in terms of breast cancer and HRT risk. And there were some comments made by the doctor I talked to, Dr. Daniel Levitin, the professor of neuroscience, looking at fish oil supplements, and he made a comment that fish oil supplements and vitamin E supplements have been linked to increased rates of cancer. Obviously very concerning. So I have spoken to several experts in that field, not experts in neuroscience and memory, and which is, Dr. Levitin's expertise, but experts in the omega-3s and all the trials and all the data. And it would appear that the couple of trials that Dr. Levitin was referring to were in fact flawed. They related to prostate cancer and they have since been discredited. And of course, we don't hear about that in the media, do we? So anyway, I talk about that on the Friday 5. So if you want to know a little bit more, then do please take a listen to that as well. This is from Ludmilla Kevin on Instagram. Where are your lovely earrings from? So these are favourites of mine. These are from Anushka. Do you know Anushka, the jeweler? I'm sure I've featured her in my magazine before. And I really like her. She's a great female founder. She was the founder of Links of London. She's got a great story. Maybe I'll get her on a podcast one day. But yeah, I just like these. Sometimes I like a little bit of sparkle. I love my gold jewellery that I wear, my botany collection, my rose gold and my yellow gold. But I tend not to work with stones. Maybe in the future I will. Maybe I'll work with gemstones. But for the moment, mine are engraved and filigree gold. So yeah, if I want something a bit sparkly, then I might go somewhere else. Talking about the magazine, who's that? Being called Miss Marple. I do like getting to the bottom of things. I guess that's, my journalistic background, and we do try and always be trustworthy and truthful. And in fact, if you look, I've got the new magazine here, this little line, so it comes out in mirror writing on my screen, but it does say wellness wisdom you can trust. And that's quite a big thing, and that's why we don't follow fads. We're not particularly fashion focused or, because it's got to be evidence based. It's got to be clinical. It's got to be true. It's got to be really helpful. And there's a couple of very good articles in here. I love some of the recipes. Oh my goodness, I am making this weekend. When you first look at it, it looks like a Christmas pudding. It's actually a baked cauliflower, a whole cauliflower. So easy to do, and it has a tahini dressing sprinkled with pomegranates. So easy, so delicious. I've made this actually several times and I'm going to be doing it again. So that is one of the things I'm going to be getting up to this weekend. So actually talking about HRT, and dare I mention this because I know it'll set off a whole other thread of conversations, and it has gone past the hour, so I'm going to have to go fairly quickly, but I'm going to leave you just with this little thought. And if you've got the magazine, you might want to read this. It's the truth about testosterone. Yeah, and why women need it. And not just for sex lives, but for brain function, for memory, for clarity of thought, crispness of thinking. So my lovely health writer, Ellie Smith, she wrote that feature and it's excellent. And the other feature that we've got here, which is also extremely good, and I know it's a topic that comes up time and time again, all about the thyroid. So this tiny little gland that can influence so much. And again, this is, a really good in-depth feature on thyroid, hyperthyroidism, overactive, underactive, the common causes, what you can do, things that you can eat that will help. I mean, just so much. Talking all about iodine. Oh, and there's another feature actually. This is the one that I wrote. This is all about intermittent fasting. Yeah, so anyway, lots in here. If you want this particular issue and you're not a subscriber, don't forget it's not in the stores. We are subscription only. We have a few of these left, but not so many. So, and there's a newsletter that's going out this afternoon with the offer for this. So they will go really, really quickly. So just to warn you, you're kind of getting the advance notice here if you happen to be a non-subscriber and you're listening or watching in real time. Do please take advantage of that, because there's the lovely Angela Langford rejuvenating eye oil that you get for free. You get your extra free issue, you get free UK P&P. Yes, of course, we will send it anywhere you like in the world. You just have to pay the extra postage, that's no problem. But it's a really good issue. But because we have only printed enough for our subscribers and just a handful of extras, that's all we have. Okay, so if once it's gone, and it won't be reprinted. Of course, you can get the digital edition free. Amy, will you pop a link up please on Facebook for Readly, because we've got a special deal with Readly, and if you're on Instagram and you're watching this, then just scroll down on the Linktree links to where it says free digital magazines, because if you click on that, Readly is a subscription service and they give any magazine in the world, pretty much, you pay your subscription $7.99 a month and you have access to everything. I mean, it's amazing. It's really, really, really good service. And of course, Liz Earle Wellbeing magazine is on there as well, so you get access to that. So you will have, this issue is available on Readly once it goes out of print. And also all our back issues. So you can see here, I've got, just some of my back issues behind me. If you're missing any of those, we've got, I think, the last 3 years worth on Readly, and we're actually looking at putting the entire back catalogue on Readly because it's just been such a popular service, and one that I really do, I can genuinely hand on heart recommend and say, I've got this, I think it's great. Get your free month, try it. You sign up for 3 months and then the first month is free, and then obviously after 3 months you can cancel it. But to be honest, I don't know anybody who has cancelled it because it is such a good thing. So there we go. So I hope everyone's having a really lovely weekend. Lots of people ordering all sorts of different things, lots of chat. It's such a lovely community. Don't forget that if you're not subscribed to the newsletter, that's free. So, why not? It's really, really good. You just, you can just sign up to it. It comes every Friday afternoon, and it's usually got lots of different recipes in it. This week, I'm sharing the almond and cacao slices. So they're the ones that I cooked earlier this week. I've got them sitting in my fridge at the farm. I can't wait for those. So we've got that recipe that's shared with you. Plus there's links to the podcast. Obviously this week the podcast with Sally Hughes. I know there's been lots of chat about that. Just so many things. Lots of things for the weekend. Take a snoop around the website. Lots of new stuff on there. Lots of Liz loves. This dress, actually, it's a Marks and Spencer's dress. This particular style has sold out, but there's another one, same print, with a V-neck, which actually I prefer, and so I've just ordered that, and I popped a link. I know, Amy, you can probably pop a link to that for Marks and Spencer's if you're interested, because it's a good price, and I just think that as we move into the autumn, winter, I just think animal prints, they're just so cool, aren't they, and so easy to wear. And again, I popped the link on Linktree, so if you fancy that. But I'm sorry, this particular neckline sold out. But the V-neck, which I think actually is even more flattering, particularly if you've got nice necklaces and things on. anyhow, that is it for today. I could sit and chat for hours actually, but I guess I better go because I'm staying here in my studios for a bit. I've got another podcast recording coming in. Actually, I'm doing this next one remotely because I'm talking to some gynecologists and obstetricians in America. So they've got really interesting research about the use of topical estrogen on the skin, which I thought was really interesting because I haven't covered that yet. So I'm looking forward to chatting to them. So that's what I'm going to be doing here this afternoon. So hope you all have a lovely rest of the day. Have a great weekend, great week ahead. I'll be back live on Monday. Of course, you can always see me on Catch Up and on YouTube as well. So anyway, until then, happy days. Lots of love. Bye-bye.